What's going on, everybody? Hail Jabronis. Happy Tuesday. Let's check in and see who's in the chat. All right. As always, we got Zombie Boy. Woo, welcome. We have Jimmy the Lumberjack. How's it going? And yes, thank you. So smug. What's going on, Baki? Welcome. All right. Well, let's jump right into it. We'll start off with a quick little segment of BA recommends before we jump into the meat of the topic for the night, which is going to be cancel maggots. That's going to be a fun one. So, all right, let's go. What's going on, Stray Beans and Sleeping Psychopathy? Welcome. So, first BA recommends today is going to be Phenomenon by our friend Patrick Quinlan. He just closed out Phenomenal Tales #1, where he got around like $5,000 in funding, and so just received a huge package from Patrick, and got all the stuff from his first campaign, from the second campaign, plus a T-shirt. Lot of goodies. I mean, just look at all this indie goodness right here. There's another one too, but fantastic first issue that he did, and he called it a comic magazine. Essentially, it was a few different chapters introducing different characters in different scenarios, which then would set up his future comics. Which the Minotaur, for his Phenomenal Tales #1, it ties directly into this comic magazine. So definitely recommend folks pick this up in the future if they get a chance, if they haven't yet. But uh, when I first came across Patrick's campaign, I was intrigued because it was set in Soviet Russia, right? So many people have their settings, obviously in a fantasy world or in the United States, for example, or sometimes in parts of Europe. But it was really like refreshing to see something just completely out of bounds compared to what you would expect. And personally, I was drawn to it because I've lived in Russia, and I'm married to a Russian and just have a lot of connections to the Russian culture. So I'm like, it's really cool to see somebody else in America tie in Russian culture and history into a comic. And so it was really cool to see again a setup where it's in Soviet Russia. We're talking about super soldiers and essentially the Soviet Union trying to come up with the perfect Soviet, right? The perfect man that cannot get hungry, that's like can't be defeated, right? That's ruthless, like the perfect soldier, essentially, right? Which there's some parallels, ironically, with my storyline as well, which I didn't find out until reading this, but made it really cool. So great minds think alike. But really good story, really intriguing, a lot of great action to it. And again, you have some unique characters with unique abilities. Where after each chapter, you're left like, hey, I want to read more. Like I wish there was a full comic issue. So was definitely good to set up his future comic issues and get some intrigue from folks. But has some really good art in it. All the chapter break pages were done by Rob Hunter. A lot of folks are familiar with him, one of the Comicsgate Kings, great artist. But overall, really good, clean art. Really enjoyed the colors; they really popped, especially on some of the masks of the characters. And yeah, just really clean, flowing story. Some great dialogue in it. Fantastic job for a first comic from somebody. Absolutely. So I'm going to be digging into Phenomenal Tales #1 here in the next couple days, so I'll be able to talk about that next week. But make sure that everybody goes and subs to Patrick's channel here on YouTube. He has Comicsgate Commandos every Wednesday, so tomorrow night. And yeah, continue to support him. But yeah, fantastic presentation, very cool comic. So highly recommend that. So the second recommendation, which is going to be a legacy comic, I mean, this shouldn't be a shocker. One of the best comics ever written, Sin City, The Hard Goodbye. Obviously, a staple of Frank Miller's work. And this is this book was perfect or this story was perfect for Frank Miller's art style. The first book I ever read of Frank Miller's was, of course, Dark Knight Returns. And at first, the art was a little jarring. That is until you got deeper into the story and you kind of understood that the rawness of the art was just a great compliment to the story and also how he wanted to depict like the media, right, being evil and ugly, and just how Batman was just very raw, and it was a very deep story. So it was a great fit. But Sin City is even better because of the black and white, first off, and just the setting, right? Sin City of itself is filled with, degeneracy and depravity, and he can really, really just push you right into the storyline and into the setting. And his art just does a fantastic job in doing it. Now, my only, I guess, complaint is I'm not a big fan of nudity in comics, but it was more tasteful, I guess, in the black and white to me because it wasn't as like kind of in your face, I guess. But yeah, absolutely love this comic. Just really in your face, intense. He knows how to write a story about a guy who is just unwilling to toe the line. He's willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done, to do what he thinks is right, or he feels is right, and just yeah, his inner monologue and the fact that he did really long form inner monologue, I really appreciate the fact that he does that. Um, and obviously the movies were fantastic adaptations as well, which he wrote and played a part in directing those as well. But I think Sin City and Dark Knight Returns are must reads for comic writers that new comic writers that are trying to learn, so they can really get a great example of how to write powerful dialogue that's short and sweet, but also incorporate some really intense inner monologues so you can connect with the character, feel like you're in their shoes. So I highly, highly recommend, new readers, even if you're not a fan of the dark and gritty, storytelling, it's a masterclass in comic writing, absolutely. And the art as well is, I think, will help folks, writers specifically generate ideas in regards to how to formulate the layouts for your comic and just work with your artist to have some really raw and intense art that helps um, really marry with the story. So highly recommend all of the Sin City books, but this was my recommendation for this week. All right. And then the last one is going to be a film, which is going to be Zack Snyder's Justice League. No surprise there. Huge Zack Snyder fan, obviously. We'll touch on his other films, I'm sure, in other segments. But last night, I finally had a chance to go back and watch the Justice's Gray version. I had watched the colored version probably at least 5, 6 times now, right? Which is like over 25 watch hours. But I've always wanted to watch the Justices Gray. I was going back to Sin City. That was one thing that was remarkable was how Rodriguez did those films in that black and white style, popping in some color to really, um, make certain aspects of the film stand out, right? Like blood and the yellow bastard and things like that. But the Justice is Gray version was very cool, and I hope that they release more films like this. And I thought it was really cool for a superhero film. I think it would be great for comics as well to have a grayscale version, right? To have more of that newspaper feel. But with how how good of a job Snyder does with cinematography and photography, that grayscale was just a really nice touch, and it was great to go back and watch that. So what I want to do is I actually want to play the trailer and kind of elaborate on certain aspects of the film and give my recommendation that way versus just trying to pull up some pictures. So we'll essentially do kind of a trailer review. And I think a decent amount of people missed out on the Zack Snyder Justice League. Either A, because they unfortunately saw the Whedon cut in theaters, which was horrendous, or B, they didn't have HBO Max, or they just felt like, hey, what's the point? Because they were killing his universe, unfortunately. But it's a phenomenal film and it's 4 hours of great content. So let me get this pulled up. All right. Let me know if there's any sound issues, but this should work. Let me get my audio fixed here. Okay.
The bell's been rung.
Obviously, they set it up really nicely with the death of Superman.
But in the dark, among the stars, the god is dead.
I had a dream. Almost like a premonition.
So, and this was one thing that was so well done was the introduction of Darkseid, and they did a really good job pulling in right the old gods of men, the Atlanteans, and the Amazonians, and just showing how them and the Lanterns all way back in the day fought together, right in the golden age of heroes to fight Darkseid the first time he came to Earth. And so I really appreciated that they didn't just introduce him in the present, but they introduced him in the past to really build up to him coming in to try to essentially take over Earth. I mean, Steppenwolf was, of course, trying to do it himself and set it up for him to just arrive when he had the unity occur with the three mother boxes. But they did a really, really good job in building up to Darkseid. Obviously, with the nightmare scenes and Batman vs Superman, but that's the one thing to me that's missing in the new Superman film or the trailer or the lack of buildup is what is it even building up to? Like, what villain is it? Just Lex Luthor versus Superman, and then a bunch of random kind of characters that aren't the Trinity, right? They're not heavy hitters. So it was a bummer that we never got to really experience Darkseid in his fullest on the big screen.
I think there's an attack coming.
My lord, this world will fall.
And yeah, the CGI. That's the other thing too. I mean, this film essentially he filmed this back what probably 7 years now, and the CGI is so much more detailed and crisp compared to the films today. Even the new Superman film, you look at the Flash film. I mean, the level of detail, especially on the armor of Steppenwolf, was just amazing. And that's people can rag on his storytelling and the style of story, right? Having dark, gritty superheroes or whatever, but his attention to detail when it comes to CGI is essentially unmatched.
I need warriors. I'm building an alliance to defend ourselves.
How do you know your team's strong enough? If you can't bring down the charging bull, then don't wave the red cape at it.
Awesome music by Junkie XL. He does a great job on all of his soundtracks.
And even if it takes you the rest of your life.
A lot of people complained about how quickly they introduced, Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman, Cyborg, etc. in Batman vs Superman, but really outside of Wonder Woman, it was just like a quick little glimpse or introduction, just a tease essentially, right, to get people warmed up for Justice League. But what I really liked about Snyder's Justice League version is that they did a really good job introducing each character, and he had the time to do it with the 4 hour cut. I know it was supposed to originally be a two-part Justice League, each at least like 3 hours, I believe. But they did a really good job showing the backstory of Cyborg, and I like that they didn't go right into a goofy Cyborg, right? Because his situation was essentially horrible, right? How he became Cyborg. So I liked how they explored his humanity and the darkness of how he became Cyborg, and they did a really good job as well with Flash, in my opinion. So and Aquaman too.
Find out what that reason is.
He said the age of heroes will never come again.
Costume design is unmatched too when it comes to his films
It has to.
and casting. But
We live.
I think part of the issue too with a lot of folks is they saw Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman. Of course, a little bit more darker in tone. You have a Superman that's more emotional. He's going through struggles, just essentially becoming Superman and dealing with humanity. But in the Snyderverse, or in the Snyder cut, excuse me, right, it's exactly what people would want out of Superman. He comes back, he's hopeful, he knows exactly what he needs to do, and his entire mission is just saving the planet and helping the team and being a force of nature in the form of the Justice League. So I think if we would have continued to see more, we would have saw more of that hopeful, joyful Superman and Man of Steel too, and probably Brainiac even, which would have been phenomenal.
In a society where honor is a distant memory. Isn't that right? Batman.
So yeah, that's my BA recommends for the week. So as always, do a indie comic, a legacy comic, and then a mainstream film or TV show. Something from all mediums, so that folks can hopefully get some good content. All right, let's check in with the chat. I saw there was some agitation occurring, so no shock there. I don't even know if I'll be able to fully catch up. Whoa. All right. Let's see here. Ah, Niobe Comics, the man who quit Twitter. You, EVS, and the whole crew are all cancel maggots. Every time you talk shit on anyone, say Eric July, it is a cancel attempt. Oh. So first off, you don't even know what my definition of cancel maggot is. Especially since as far as I know, I came up with the term, and it's not the same as a cancel pig, which everyone took from Mark Millar, I believe, and ran with that and twisted it and basically bastardized it, just like the word cancel has been bastardized. And no, making fun of someone, critiquing them, is not cancellation at all. It's embarrassing if someone actually thinks that. We have Flady. How's it going? All right. Any time someone tries to sway others to not buy someone else's product is a form of cancellation. No, not if it's in the form of an opinion or a critique. The only time that this could be true is if they're actually approaching a publisher or someone's employer with lies or hyperbole to try to get them like to lose their job essentially, or lose their stream of income. Simply telling people like, "Hey, I don't think you should read this comic because it's not good," or "this person is a jackass," for example, is not cancellation. If it were, then all these people that do countless videos complaining about Disney, Star Wars, and MCU, and blah 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 are trying to cancel all these companies, right? No, they're critiquing them. Now, I think a lot of that critique is garbage, but I'm not going to go to the lengths of saying, "Oh, they're trying to cancel them." No, they're trying to monetize rage, in my opinion. Nice. Yep. People are saying hi to Larry. Does BA recommend buy a T-shirt too small and wear it out to a convention? No, I do not recommend that. uh, are you serious? Making someone wearing for wearing a shirt that's way too small and pointing out that they're out of shape is not canceling them. What is he gonna lose? A couple dollars per week from YouTube. I mean, come on. Oh, what's going on, Christopher Menkos? Welcome. Thank you. What's going on in my sketchbook? Welcome. Mr. Andrew Campbell, welcome. Some nice back and forth here. In Soviet Russia, comics read you. Oh yeah. That's right. Just asking for a recommendation. That's not a cancellation, people. So Sleeping Psychopathy says the biggest realization that I had when I started studying Russian history was just how little of it is taught in public schools here in the States. Yeah, yeah. What you learn here in the States is that it was primarily the US and the UK that won World War II. And they forget to mention the fact that, Soviet Russia lost like 20 million soldiers. And, had they not stopped them in Moscow, and all that, who knows what would have happened, how far Hitler would have traveled and the amount of power he would have gained. So, if it weren't for Russia, in my opinion, or Soviet Union, I don't think Hitler would have been stopped. Things would have been much, much worse. And they don't. They just sadly don't get their due credit. Niobe, you mock and make fun of people all the time to try to market your book. You're constantly in people's chats, like right now. uh, I don't care if you tell people not to buy my book. And I think I've actually potentially saw you do that in the past. I don't care. It's not cancellation. I just need to make sure I market myself well that people won't be dull enough to slurp up the bullshit that people like you are pushing out. Very mature. All right. So no matter what he says here tonight, it's all hypocritical as he and his crew do what EVS wants, which is why they bashed a black man for 2 years to lower his sales to increase their own. No, EVS is not in the room with me. I do not take orders from him. I talk about topics I want to talk about, and proof of that would be the fact that I talk about how much I love Zack Snyder films, which he is not a fan of. So come on, do better. And why you always bringing people's race into it? That's SJW talk right there. So Stray Beans asks, BA, do you know about Miller's art process with that book? He drew on black scraper board instead of paper. Essentially, it's like drawing with white on black instead of the normal white. That makes total sense with how heavy like the whites looked and how much they popped. It would make sense to basically just do with white ink essentially on black. That's really cool. And that's something too that's speaking of my project with how Joe Ball does his art and how he did that one cover piece for me, he does a lot of like white effects with like white ink or something. Like it's really, really cool. And I absolutely love black and white comics like that. And that's why when I do my comic here, right, there's gonna be a black and white version that people are gonna be like, oh man, this feels like Sin City, right? It's gonna be really intense. And the art that I'm gonna have is really gonna really be fitting for that. So you're canceling me by calling me dull and boring. How dare you? No, kidding. Oh, Canada first. Okay. I didn't expect to have this many good laughs tonight. Every week there's somebody new. What's going on, Katie? Hail. And yeah, after my stream tonight, everybody go over to Katie's channel. She's going to have Andy Smith on there tonight to promote Cordrath, which closes out tomorrow, I believe. So definitely check that out tonight. All right, let's listen to some more propaganda here. You all hope EVS will bring you on his shows for fighting his culture war. It's all very, very sad that none of you have morals or convictions of your own. All opinions expressed here on Dark Horse Discourse are mine and mine alone. And no, I never had to fight any battles for him. I don't like using the term culture war again. I think it's, I don't know. You know, I I actually read and see like things that are going on in real wars. Um, in today's world, and so I don't like to attach the word war to things that are attached to comics and literature and film and all of that. Like it's just not comparable. I think that that word needs to stay where it actually belongs, which is actual like war, where people can die and horrible things happen. So I don't like the bastardization of that word. And how I got on EBS's channel, I don't know, was 2 years ago. Initially, just being a nice, normal guy. All I did was promote folks. Some folks in his inner circle ended up liking me, ended up recommending, kind of bringing me into the fold per se, invited me onto some shows, and it's a matter of getting trust from folks in the space. And sometimes it's as simple as just being normal and being yourself. That's it. So, Stormtrooper Julian Caesar, welcome. How's it going? My issue is that WB tried to do it in 2 or 3 movies, what Marvel did over a decade. I like Snyder's feel, but it was terribly rushed. See, I have to agree to an extent. I absolutely love all of his films, but I know he, as well as myself, wished he could have spread it out more. I'm sure he would have loved to have done a Man of Steel 2, maybe even done a solo Ben Affleck film. But yeah, WB, the studio, they wanted to rush it. They wanted to try to catch up. Um, and that's really unfortunate. They had a cash cow in that casting and with Nolan attached to it and Snyder, but instead they decided to rush it. And they made a lot of mistakes along the way, trimming 40 minutes out of Batman vs Superman, completely messing up Ayer's version of Suicide Squad, for example, and then that steaming pile of shit that was, Wonder Woman 1984. They had a gold mine and they decided to just abandon it. Sleeping Psychopathy says, I've read that the CGI houses have been overwhelmed by the work the past few years. I wonder if that's why there is such a regression. I think that's part of it. The other thing too, for me, certain directors and writers, more so on the director side of things, when they have a little more control over the creative direction of films, they work with a lot of the same teams, right? Like Snyder works with the same photographer. He works with the same costume designer, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has the same group of CGI folks working on most of the films. And they even do that with castings, right? When they've worked with certain people that they know are versatile and really good actors, they'll bring them on more and more films. And so I think they're just, I don't know, the way I see it, they're just more passionate. They give more of a shit. Whereas I think other films, the studios are kind of just, right, assigning or picking CGI houses, photographers, and all that, and the director is more so just focused on directing. The writers just focused on writing. Where Snyder and Nolan, and I think Villanueva as well, they are just anal about the entire process, the entire film. They want perfection, and so they're very picky on who they work with. And I think a lot of times they have a little bit more say in who they work with as well. So, but I'm sure that's a part of it though too. Yeah, I think there was for me, it wasn't a burnout of superhero movies. It was starting to get the burnout of bad ones, specifically post Endgame and post Snyderverse. They just went down in quality, and it's just like, well, what's the point, you know? All right, we have Pop Culture Rocks. How's it going? Thanks for joining. Yeah, as a former bodybuilding champion, what's your qualified opinion on Sturgis's physique? And be honest. Uh, I try to be nice, I guess, and gentle about such thing, but he's if he's actually hitting the gym, I applaud him. Everybody's got to start somewhere. Um, he needs to find the right diet and regiment for himself, and he needs to build muscle and trim as well at the same time. So he's got a lot of work ahead of him. I'll leave it at that. And he and most people, right, shouldn't be bragging about their physique or looks in general. Exactly. Criticism is not canceling. Oh, Courteous Curtis. Nice name. Welcome. Thanks for joining. As a lifetime Slipknot fan, it's had for me to think the word maggot as an insult. Yeah. Ah, Coca-Cola, welcome. Man, a lot of awesome people here. Got time scales. I want to make sure I get everybody here. Wilberforce Wooster. Welcome. He's still here. Yeah, that's silly. Influence is all over me. No, I don't think so. He's not a cologne. There are so many spelling errors. My brain is starting to hurt here. Need some coffee here. Let you guys read that one. You can speak on it. Are you planning on having Corey do the full comic? So right now, I'll say I'm not ready to announce who will be on the creative team for the full comic issue. The line artist and inker is already lined up. Still have to figure out from a colorist perspective and all of that. But hopefully by summer, I'll be able to do a sign up page, and everyone will know at that point who will be involved. But I can guarantee people are going to love the team and the quality of the art. I know, man. I've never gotten so many love letters through chat. Man, it's like, yeah, literally, look at me, look at me. Oh gosh, Christopher Bouchard, welcome. You and I are at what? Make it make sense. Are at war. No, I'm not at war with anybody. That's a one-sided war. Have fun with that. I guess who will the winner will be determined by whether or not my first comic issue outfunds your highest rate, funded project. Good luck. Nice normal guys do not go on a channel about hating one man for super chat money. It's immoral. Yeah, I haven't been on any trash casts, if that's what you're referring to. I've been on Comicsgate Live, which is mainly about just promoting one another and then some commentating on pop culture and politics. But yeah, sorry. But I would go on that show. I don't think critiquing someone is hate. And I mean, kudos to him for being able to get super chat money. I mean, that just means he has passionate fans. Everybody should want that. War has changed its face. Yeah, in a lot of cases, there are a lot of people wearing clown masks, unfortunately. No, I am good. I fight against CG in all of its forms for the betterment of comics. EVS plays a song every intro, singing the N word. That alone should be enough to show his racism. Jokes also are not racist in most cases. Lighten up. There's a lot of discussion around that on whether or not film should be, more than an hour and a half or 2 hours. The thing with Justice League, right? If you want to introduce all of the characters with proper backstories, make the characters three dimensional, you need a lot of time, which is why he was going to have several installments. For me, I'm like the longer the better. I love like 4 hour films, 3 hour films, all the Lord of the Rings, Oppenheimer, some of Zack's films. I love, I mean, it's more bang for your buck, right? If you can get a 90-page comic that has the same quality of art and storytelling compared to a 48-page book, I mean, of course you would do that, right? So yeah, I'm all for longer movies as long as the quality remains and the pacing is good. So the betterment of comics. And there's a lot of things that need to change for the betterment of comics, and what he's fighting against is nonsense in the grand scheme of things. Man, I should just have a segment alone, which is just Niobe talks back and forth. I swear we're gonna get into the main topic, but I guess it's all relative here. Correct. CG has made indie comics look bad for 8 years. Bad books, late books, scams, hateful content. So for you have yet to make a comic that has better art than a majority of CG. You have yet to outfund a high percentage of CG creators. So what would that say about you then? So I have been solely focused on the first comic issue right now. I am almost halfway done. Um, about 23 pages deep of what'll probably be between 48 and 56 page um, comic for the first issue. So just chugging along at that. And then once the script is done and line art is fully underway, then I'll probably in a couple months maybe dive into the third novel, and then try to kind of bounce back between that and future installments of the comic. So because the story is there to just keep writing the comic, so which is really fun and exciting. But I am the type that has to hyper focus on like one thing at a time. So right now, it's comic, that's for sure. A lot of fun back and forth here. Yeah, the thing is, we don't really know what he tried to get Warner Brothers and the film studio to sign up to. I wish we had some insight into that. Um, and I'm sure there's NDAs and stuff that prevent a lot of that stuff from coming out. So that's true. That's true. I don't think in the case of Sturgis that's reality, but yeah, yeah. Feige did a great job. Honestly, I had this discussion with a friend the other day. I wish, and I don't know if he would have accepted it, but I wish they would have gave the film universe over to Christopher Nolan, and just continued on with the Nolan verse and pulled in Snyder for Snyder to do his own films. I think they could have had a really good fit there. Nolan has a fantastic approach towards writing and directing, casting, all of that. And I think if they wouldn't have limited him on some of his Batman films, and he would have continued to be interested in kind of heading things, I think that would have been beautiful for DC. And he was actually the one that told them, "Hey, you should hire Snyder." They asked for his recommendation. I think they wanted to keep Nolan around, but he was ready, right, to go on to bigger and better things. But I think in the perfect world for me, Nolan would have been in charge of everything, and then yeah, he would have worked well with Snyder in terms of writing, getting the best team put together with Ayer. Um, I think they missed a great opportunity there. That is very true. A lot of great books. I have a bunch of them on my desk right now, one of which I just recommended to folks. One good thing has ever come from CG. The best is Cyberfrog, and guess what? The man cannot write. Sure. Sure. Yeah. I don't think you've actually read many CG books because you're so anti CG. I think Cyberfrog's probably one of the only ones you ever purchased. So, yeah. Sick lad, welcome. Stop seething. Possible to get caught up. This is crazy. What's going on, Amazing Gaming Productions? Welcome. And look at how big your teeth. Wait, I thought he was just saying it's like canceling if you make fun of somebody. Just being canceled all night. I'm gonna get canceled through the morning, it seems. This is just an abundance of cancellation. I don't know if I can handle it. Jeez. Uh, so what am I, the horseman? Am I gonna go around just clubbing people? Oh no, I make a joke, I'm canceling somebody else. What shall I do? Still going. Anyone following EPS is not a good Christian. A good Christian would stand up against his hate. So much SJW talking here. Any tips on writing? Colby Mac, welcome. Thanks for joining. Like where to start. Also, thank you in advance. You know what? For me, the biggest thing is just start writing. Doesn't have to be structured. It could just be jotting down some notes, jotting down ideas for character designs. The biggest thing is just taking that leap and just getting something on the paper. For I had the idea and the visualization for Vigilantes Creed for a solid probably 6 years before I did anything with it. Why? I was caught up with real life and work and all that, and I didn't really think I could do anything with it. I guess I underestimated myself. But I started going through some hard times. It was like, I need an outlet. And one night, with some liquid encouragement, after going to see a film late at night, I got home and it was just like, I'm just gonna sit down. I'm just gonna type. And the next morning, I didn't really remember much of what I wrote. But the next morning, I read it and I was just like, wow, like I really, really like what I've done. And then it just got the gears of creativity going to where I just started taking more notes, all day, every day, whether I was at work, in the gym, whatever. I'd always have a notebook and I'd just come up with an idea for a character or for a chapter or for a scene. I'd just jot it down and then I would just build on that initial writing that I did, the first chapter essentially. And then it just slowly grew. The character arcs grew, the plot grew, and then immediately like came up with the ending. Like I would come up with parts of the story and write it and then connect it. But bottom line, it's just getting that courage and getting rid of that self doubt and just sitting down and just getting something on paper and just find out, do you enjoy it? If you don't enjoy it, may not be the right thing for you, right? But if you really love it and you're passionate about your story and your characters, just keep going. From there, it's just learning, right? Read more books, watch more films, read, guides from those who have done it best, like in terms of comics, like read Alan Moore's How to Write Comics book and things like that, and just try to learn and expand while you're practicing when you're doing that draft, and then continuously edit based on what you've learned, and just keep working through it. So that's probably the best advice I can give from my side of things. Aw, how nice. Come on, really? Talking about fighting. Corey Barton, how's it going? Welcome. You have a night therapy corner section. Yeah, I should have a little video introduction for that, or agitator therapy corner for him, or when the wheelers come in, or Taser Man, or somebody. I think last week was essentially like a therapy session with him, but it was productive. I think it was good. Again, get opposing ideas and forces, on the show, and talk, try to be civil and all of that. So, thank Ferret. Yeah, thanks for being here. Welcome. Uh, all right. JJ Trujillo, welcome. Thanks for being here. All right. So JJ asks, do you prefer Nolan or Snyder? What do you think of Batman's no kill rule? Good question. Um, when it comes to superhero films, I'm going to say I prefer Snyder, but I really, really love what Nolan did as well. When it comes to non-superhero films, I'm going to go with Nolan. Nolan is just, his ability to write and be a visionary is just, it's beautiful. When you come to films like Inception, Interstellar, Prestige, like the level of detail and intrigue that he puts into his stories is unbelievable. And the fact that he writes and directs all of his films. Snyder primarily just directs most of his films. He did have like a writing credit for Justice League, Wonder Woman. He did write Rebel Moon, but most of his films he didn't actually write. Nolan actually wrote Man of Steel, right? Chris Terrio wrote uh, Justice League for the most part, and Batman vs Superman. So I think Snyder is fantastic at taking something directly right from a comic, or a novel, and putting it in film. That was put on perfect display with Watchmen, with 300, right? And again, his attention to detail, and how anal he is about just being a perfectionist about the visuals, um, is pretty unmatched. So I'm gonna say Nolan is like the best writer in my opinion when it comes to films these days. When it comes to directing, I'm gonna kind of give it a tie between the two. But again, if it's like superhero films, I'm gonna go with Snyder. If it's non-superhero films, I'm gonna go with Nolan. So, Batman's no kill rule, I'm not a fan of. Um, that's one thing I loved about Snyderverse. I liked that they basically did Dark Knight Returns, but him going, breaking that rule essentially, like he had kind of lost himself in that sense, right? The rage had taken over. And I love how he grew from that, right? He learned from being deceived by Lex, and by, not just having a discussion with Superman, right? And being an adult about it, how that led to Superman's death. But then he did a full 180, and it was like he learned from it. It hit him hard, um, because he failed Clark. He failed Superman, and he realized he needed to be a leader, and that's how he got back to, right, the true Batman that he was meant to be. Just like Superman ended up growing into the to be the true Superman that he needed to be, after he had died. And so, for me, when it comes to, I guess, heroes and killing, if they need to kill as a last resort to save themselves or save others, I think it's okay. But I understand why they did that in comics, and they've done it in some films. I think Nolan did a very good job with it. I just don't like it where they rely on it too much, and they try to bring up the no kill rule, or that's where it's like kind of annoying. Like, oh, he won't kill. Like we get it, but if he gets put in a certain situation, just like Superman and Man of Steel, I like directors and writers that will put characters in challenging or near impossible situations so that you can, get a fresh take on characters. Yeah, Corey has been leveling up. His Andromenoid stuff is looking killer. Very excited for that. More shit talk. All right. So let's get into the topic, which is uh, cancel maggots. I need to take him off of here. Okay. So, right, the word cancel pig became popular, right? Which at first was fitting, right? It was people that were actively trying to cancel others. Uh, to me, cancellation, there's two folds to it. There's the attempt to cancel, and then there's the actual cancellation, being canceled. The act of trying to cancel someone or the attempt is contacting publishers, contacting works, places of work, and actively trying to get someone removed, right? To make them lose their job, to make them lose their stream of income. And a lot of times that goes hand in hand with lies, right? And allegations. Usually it's people using hyperbole and lies to try to make them look bad in order for them to get canceled. And then obviously the getting canceled is when you actually lose that income, when you get removed from conventions, when you get blacklisted, right? From working in industries, for example. And the thing is, when it comes to like a normal 9 to 5, right? You have like automotive industry, medical device, and all that, right? You lose your job in one industry or one job, it's very unlikely that you're going to get blacklisted when it comes to other industries. But when it comes to creative mediums, that is not the case. Why? There's only a handful of companies in comics that folks at least previously could make good money from having a career in, and it was mainly the big two. So if you get blacklisted from those two, well, you're pretty much not going to be able to make a living wage, right? And that's where folks got forced into indie comics and crowdfunding, which I think for a lot of people was a blessing in disguise. Same thing when it happens with films, right? You get blacklisted as a result of allegations that have not been proven factual, or because of lies, things of that nature. You're pretty much out of the industry, um, and that's where it's like real cancellation, essentially. Now, to me, what a cancel maggot would be, it would be folks who claim they are being canceled, yet they're simply just rage baiting for attention, right? In most cases, they're not actually being canceled. Folks are not actually trying to cancel them. They're just being critiqued or made fun of. And essentially, they infest social media and they thrive on garbage and brain rot, right? Like a lot of these rage baiters love to throw out, right? Just brain rot. Like maggots and flies, they grow exponentially if left unchecked, right? If they're not called out. And in a lot of cases, they're hypocrites. And when folks point out that they're hypocrites, show proof of it, expose them, essentially, these maggots will say, "Oh, I'm being canceled." Why? They want to be victims. Victimhood leads to sales, it leads to the activation of their simps. And a lot of times, you'll even see them purposely embarrass themselves just so that they can be put in a scenario to where they can look like a victim and then turn around and push for sales, make articles, right? Get more followers, get more YouTube subscribers. And I think everyone has seen examples of this. It's a growing problem, especially with social media. And, essentially what they do is they burrow into the corpse of what cancellation once meant. Taking aspects of cancel culture in order to exploit actual cases, right? When people have been canceled, and then try to gain victimhood status for clicks and sales. And like I said, activate their gullible simps. And this goes back to a lot of folks are agreeing with me here in the chat. Simply critiquing someone's work or making fun of something that they said is not cancellation. Why? A, it's happening on a public forum. It's not someone's reaching out to a publisher or an employer and lying about them and saying, hey, this person is A, B, or C, or they've done this, that, or the other without any proof, and then trying to make the company so fearful of having that person around that they cut the cord. That's cancellation. Making fun of someone on Twitter is not cancellation. Now, there could be attempts of cancellation, but again, that goes to if someone is making false claims, if they're actually lying about someone, if they're spreading false allegations, things of that nature, that would be attempts at canceling someone. But in most cases, it's, hey, that comic looks like shit, or hey, that person looks ridiculous with their beard, or whatever, right? You see it all the time, and then you'll see people say, oh, I'm being canceled. That's an insult to folks that were actually canceled, right? People that have lost their income, that have lost their jobs, that have some that have even lost their life because they've been, pushed out of industries. And it goes hand in hand with how I hate how the word war has been bastardized, right? I think it's an insult to war to like compare some of these scenarios to actual war. And so the other thing that you can notice from them too is, you go on their Twitter and do a word search essentially on the profile, and if they are constantly using the word cancel, and I'm talking nonstop, seems like they're trying to take advantage of the word and the fact that cancel culture does exist. And if you want me to go a little more detail about cancel culture, I do have a video from, I don't know, maybe 6 7 months ago. You can see in my real talk playlist where I talk about this, and this was when the whole Ed Piskor thing happened, as well as Shane, EBS, and John being canceled from one of the conventions at C2E2, right? And so people are finding ways of convenience to benefit from cancel culture. They will claim they are anti-cancel culture. They'll claim they're anti-SJW, but in fact, they love that it exists because there's ways for them to benefit from them, for them to get sales from it, essentially. And just like the rage, baiter situation, you have just copycats springing up because they see this person is getting sales from it, so I'm going to try that same method, that same formula. And then they get some success, and then someone copies them and copies them, and you just get all of these copycats just spewing brain rot all over the internet. They grow, right? They spread just like maggots. So that's my definition of cancel maggot, which I don't think I've ever seen anyone else use that term, but completely different from a cancel pig. Cancel pig, in my opinion, is someone that's actively trying to get people canceled, right? Attempts at cancellation. Cancel maggot is someone that is taking advantage of the fact that cancel culture exists to twist what's going on so that they can benefit from it. And they, in a lot of cases, will say that they are against cancel culture and they want it to go away, but they don't stop trying to benefit from it. So let's see what the chat has to say on that. That's my rant so far on that. Oh man, where do I start? And thank you everyone for being here. I think I hit 40 viewers at once. That's amazing. So thank you guys. I really appreciate that. Let's see. More people going back and forth with Niobe. Oh boy. No, Corey Barton is definitely not overrated, especially considering how young he is compared to most artists in the space. He's extremely talented, extremely humble as well. He's one of the most quiet guys. I actually wish he would tweet more and talk more because he flies under the radar, unfortunately, but he's definitely not overrated, nor is his brother. No, I'm not gonna ban you. You haven't crossed the line. Mods know, right? If you cross the line to time you out or whatever. But see, this is a good example. Um, someone almost trying to claim victimhood. Like they want. I think he might want me to have him banned, right? To silence him so that he can then say, "I've been canceled from that stream," right? To get that attention that he so obviously desperately needs right now. Okay, time yourself out by just not being here or not talking. See, people see through this. They do. Maggots. Yep. That's because I try to respect the chat, right? If the chat is engaged, I want to make sure their voices are heard, and there's time we can just converse, right? I know when I'm in the chat, it's always nice if what you say gets pulled up, and it's part of the conversation. It's all relative, so um, yeah, it doesn't matter if it takes an hour to get to into the main topic because I do BA recommends, I do promotion, right? It's more than just about one topic. And slow down when you type. No, I didn't. If I did misspell it, oh, jeez. Ah, shit happens. Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Totally gets canceled all the time. We might look at a couple tweets that are good examples of that. Corey, why are you here, Niobe Comics? You should be working at making your comic instead of trying to make enemies, right? Shouldn't you want to be convincing folks to buy your books? That's the thing. That's why I just don't understand why folks would want to kneecap themselves and exclude an entire group of backers, thousands of backers. Like I want people of every group, every religion, every whatever to buy my books and to be influenced by my stories. Like it's wild that you don't want people to certain groups of people to read your books. It's nonsense. See, I deal with real, true comic book fans and not trolls who roll in the mud. You've been rolling in the mud the whole time, man. No, I haven't. Um, but I have seen people do that. Yeah. Corey Barton, my comic is made, and if you are CG, we are already enemies. The goal is to show the evil of CG to everyone and make this a defunct movement. Well, you haven't made it defunct enough because Corey and his brother embarrassed you in regards to funding. I think they raised at least $60,000 on their last campaign, which I think doubles your highest funded campaign, which took you several campaigns just to get to like maybe a $30,000 campaign. This may have been Corey and Clayton's first campaign, or at least one of their first. So, yeah, yep, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yep, yep. Fame, money, and clout. That is something that is eroding culture in general, but it's definitely a huge issue on Social media. What is with you in these wars? I mean, Niobe, you might as well just come on the stream if you want to talk this much to the chat, you know. Plus, then people won't have to deal with trying to decipher all of your grammatical and spelling errors here. Yes, everybody knows, Larry, that you desperately want to go mainstream. And it's not true that you can't do that with CG. Narwhal got noticed while still being CG by Mark Millar. He's with Dark Horse now. So I don't think that you can't go mainstream, but a lot of us, it's not our goal. Like our goal is just to make the best comics possible and to gain backers, to get our stories out in the hands of as many people as possible. And you know what? If a mainstream company is not going to judge a book based off of merit, then why would you want to work with them? And you haven't been CG this entire time. So why aren't you in the mainstream yet? Well, you know what? If having to disassociate yourself from CG is what got you welcome back to a convention, then that convention is garbage. Why would you want to give money to a convention that excludes people based off of their political beliefs or their beliefs towards comics? It's nonsense. What's going on, Patrick Quinlan? Welcome. How you doing? Took a look at your fantastic book earlier. What's going on, Rick Saylor? Welcome. Thanks for being here. Yeah, and see, I mentioned this in a previous stream that I think that some people are just virtue signaling as a method of getting the attention of the mainstream versus putting out quality books and submitting those books to the mainstream. They're hoping that the folks in the mainstream that hate CG or that hate certain political groups or whatever, if you show that, oh, I'm one of the good ones, I'm fighting the good fight, just like you, I'll get down and dirty like you, that they'll get welcomed with open arms. Man, that's just sad in my opinion, if that's the case for some folks. Like, man, if I were to get into the mainstream or ever have a film made based off of my books, I'd want it to be because they love the story, that they're impressed by the books, not because of what I say or my political beliefs. Like it's like you're to me, it's like a self discount. Screw that. And if you don't get in the mainstream, then just find a way to be a breakout in indie comics and prove the mainstream that they're missing out. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they explicitly said that, but you know, obviously he's not here to say himself. See, and that's my point. Why would you support a convention that explicitly wants to exclude a group of comic book creators and essentially fans? Like you're supporting people that are okay with cancel culture. You're supporting cancel pigs. Why would you do that? Hmm? Awesome. Yeah, I got more people that back Patrick's book getting their packages. Awesome. And that's true. You were never CG. Same with Tyler. Um, always been open about that, but you never declared war or anything. But suddenly that virtue signaling is happening. I don't know if that's out of like desperation or what. But like, why weren't you so outspoken years ago if you thought the group was so immoral and evil or whatever nonsense? That would be interesting for sure. Corey versus Clayton drawing fight. That would be awesome. Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, if you can hit the like and subscribe, definitely would appreciate that. See, another great example of the topic, right? Folks want to actually cross the line. They're trying to push the boundaries as much as possible to just draw attention to themselves versus just putting out a killer book, getting some awesome cover art, right? Hiring a phenomenal artist so that you draw people to your creative works. No, people are trying to do it with words and hyperbole. Yeah, thank you. Keep working at it. Keep dreaming. Right. The people that you're virtue signaling to are not going to be in this chat or any of the CG chats. I mean, you might as well just punch a wall. You're going to have the same amount of success, essentially, of getting the attention of the mainstream. Hmm. Yep. See, a lot of us in CG are not negative. A lot of us are not constantly complaining or rage baiting. Most of us actually do love comics. We want to make the best books possible. We would like to change the industry. A lot of us don't love the current state of the industry, the direction that it's been taking the last 2 decades, for example. We're not going to blindly support and love, you know, directions that are destroying an industry, essentially. So, yes, there's nothing wrong with us speaking out and saying what we don't like about the direction and basically say, hey, this is how we would want it to change. What's going on, Eric? How's it going? All right, let's take a look at some funny tweets that relate to the word cancellation, right, and the topic at hand. All right, so the first one, sure, people have seen this, but a great example of essentially folks that basically turn the topic of cancellation into a joke, right? And you can tell that it's not actually that serious to many of them. And so you see here a tweet from Melanie Mack, and and this happened right before the New Year's. And I remember seeing the tweet and just shaking my head, just like I am now. And she said, what I accomplished in 2024 got canceled, right? Repeat it several times. Her goal for 2025 is to get canceled. Now, in my opinion, that that shows, right, that she wants to push the boundaries. She wants to say things that are so controversial that she could eventually claim victim status, right? Because when that happens, you get more of those rage clicks, you get more viewers, right, which can turn into more profit essentially. But to me, this is an insult, and it's essentially joking about cancel culture, right? There are people that actually have their lives severely impacted by such things, but being removed from Twitch or one platform or something that you purposely did to get attention is not the same as what has happened to people that have been blacklisted from comics, for example. But yeah, you can tell obviously this had a lot of quote tweets and a lot of comics because it was insulting. A couple more good examples here. So let's try to protect your ears. I know the incoming sound will probably make them bleed a little, but bear with me.
People apparently can't tell the difference between exposing a multi-billion-dollar company and cancel culture. So allow me to explain for those who lack common sense. If someone on the internet with a camera and a microphone has an opinion that you don't like, it's not good to try to ruin their entire livelihood. If
Oh, the irony. Oh, that's a great pause. But let's play that little bit of snippet right there. That was a very, very, very good
their
statement.
entire livelihood. If said person, however, is scamming their audience or literally
Whoops.
not good to try with a camera and a microphone has an opinion that you don't like, it's not good to try to ruin their entire livelihood.
So if someone gets on a camera and simply just talks about what they think is not good, they should not have their whole livelihood ruined, right? Well, all the times that a lot of these folks on the internet claim that they're being canceled, it's because people have simply turned on their camera or typed away on the keyboard to talk about what they don't agree with, to call out something that they believe is hypocritical. So they should not be labeled as cancel pigs or taking part in cancel culture if they are simply just speaking their mind and providing critique. So that's very ironic, that part there.
Said person, however, is scamming their audience or literally stealing money for their audience, yes, expose what they're doing. That's fine. If a multi-billion-dollar
So it's fine if people are trying to expose hypocrites as well.
company is not executing their terms of service fairly and showing bias moderation practices, expose it. But don't harass the employees individually who have nothing to do with this. It's really not hard, and I don't know why this even needs to be said.
Critique is not cancellation, right? uh, we have one more from that gold mine of claimed cancellation. Let's see here.
I have to at least add context so people know. Okay, so I have to put this out there because the cancel pigs are after me. They have been looking for something to hold against me and to make people cancel me, and they finally found something. So I have to at least add context so people know what's going on. So yes, I did say the N-word. They scoured through all of my social media platforms and finally found where I've said the N-word. But this is the thing, is somebody took the time out of their day to search and scour and look and look and look for and finally find something from 11 whole entire hours ago.
See, it's all a big joke. How insulting is that to folks like Piscor and others that have actually had their lives severely impacted as a result of cancellations or the attempts of cancellations? And this gets into turned into a hyperbolized joke essentially.
11 hours ago, I said the N-word. That's clearly from the past. Oh,
Yeah, that's funny and ironic. But yeah, if you're actually being canceled, you wouldn't be laughing, and you shouldn't be laughing about cancellations either. Right. Let's see. We got Mr. Justin Belmont in the house. How's it going? Yeah, everybody, make sure you go and check out Pencils Down. We'll be looking at that shortly as well. He's looking to hit his 7K stretch goal, so definitely hit that up on Indiegogo. Maybe you should take some typing classes or look at the keyboard. Doesn't matter that if he's not CG now. Back when he caught the attention of Malar, and Malar already said he was hoping to like line something up with Narwhal, he was CG. Malar didn't have an issue with it, so same thing. Doesn't matter whether they are now or not. If she would have caught the attention of the mainstream or Malar or someone from Image or whatever while CG, that means it's possible to get into it. Equal opportunist. What can I say? Yep, exactly. No, I'm definitely happy for him. That's awesome. hmm Yeah, I do think, um, especially if you're a newer creator and you haven't been in the mainstream yet, if you come out with a phenomenal book and you catch the attention of someone, it's possible. I do think it's just not a main focus of many of us. That would just be a bonus, essentially, right? Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, you've been at this a long time and you're still not working for one of the big companies. So I'm just starting, but we'll see. Um, if my first comic gets more rave reviews and more attention than yours, I don't know. Time will tell. Movies will never come from CG. As far as I know, Chuck Dixon was, or is somewhat aligned with CG, right? And there's a movie coming out about from one of his books, one of his novels. It's got Jason Statham in it, and it's a David Ayer movie. So I do think it's possible. Man, it's like the Energizer Bunny. Literally cannot keep up with him. All right, let's look at another funny tweet here that's relevant. Let's see here. Uh, All right. Speaking of JDA, who came up in the chat earlier. So, gentleman that will constantly say he's being canceled. He's actually recently said that I tried to cancel him, and I'll show you how. Which is really funny. But I remember this exchange I had back in June where he said, "I attack leftists. I want to burn their companies down. I don't spend much time doing that. That's the goal." If you're saying that you actually want to burn their companies down, again, a lot of hyperbole there, that sounds like canceling, right? However, I've seen him and many other people, and even Niobe in the chat here saying, oh, if you are criticizing someone's business, that you are trying to destroy it, right? You're trying to cancel it. There's some irony there. And that's essentially what I pointed out here, right? So wanting to destroy someone's business is okay now, because prior to that, a lot of folks were complaining and accusing others of saying that they wanted to destroy somebody's business. And I said, so if that's true, a lot of folks need to apologize to Dick Masterson, to Vito and EVS, and hell, even me, for accusing folks of trying to destroy someone's business when in fact that wasn't reality. Let's find the next one here. So this was a fun one where he had Vickyverse and then JDA jumping into it. So based on his logic and Niobe's logic, right? saying that someone like me will never be a real author, couldn't that be interpreted as a cancellation attempt, right? To try to convince folks that uh, one might not be a good author and that their books are not worth purchasing. Hmm, that's ironic as well. All right, and this tweet thread, which this was like a day of just ratios, it was fantastic. Um, but this is where he had claimed in one of his streams that EVS had shown it, I think, on Trashcast recently, where he said that I had tried to cancel him. And so it all started when JDA said, "Well, you're showing you're retarded." Yeah, of course, when people got to use such words, they're definitely winning an argument. But that's why I mostly don't bother with any comic people these days. People who read sci-fi novels are generally smarter and more interesting to talk with. Hmm. He writes comics, you want to call him that. He markets to comic readers and tries to get them to spend money on him, on his comics. Yet here he is saying that they're not as smart as novel readers. And so I gave him an Alan Moore slow clap and said, that's a weird way to talk about your customers and potential readers. I write novels and comics too, but could never imagine calling one type of reader less intelligent and less interesting than the other. I'm sure this is all part of the plan for winning McCulture War. Guess comic readers aren't needed. And when you go down in the stream, a lot of people chimed in. It was a fun time, but let's get to the main response here that caused a lot of complaints. Let's just say right here. He said, on average, comic book people are mouth-breathing idiots. Yes, you are certainly one of those. And so what I simply did was I just quote tweeted this and said, what a thing to say to people that you're selling books to, essentially. And because all I did was show people what he actually said, he claimed that I was canceling him. And he claimed that EVS was canceling him because he also quote tweeted it, because this is an absolute absurd thing to say about your audience and your backers. It's quite disgusting, quite frankly. But you'll also see him constantly say that he's being canceled. And majority of the time, it's when people are just criticizing him, right? Criticizing his views on video games, criticizing his comics, criticizing him tossing, Christianity out into a bunch of topics, you name it. But again, critique is not cancellation. And even though throughout this string of awesome ratios, he had called me a slew of names, I'm not going to sit there and say he's canceling me. And I'm not going to be weak and say, oh, well, even though he went on his stream, which has a much larger, viewing base and more people viewing it, right? That he said that I had attempted to cancel him, which is obviously trying to make me look bad. Could be interpreted as a way to try to get people to not back my book, right? I'm not going to sit here and say he's canceling me. It's his way of taking a jab at me, critiquing me, whatever, um, getting back at me for embarrassing him. But yeah, it's not cancellation on either side. So I'm going to stick with fighting cancellation attempts versus actually crying about being canceled when you actually are not. Chat is just going. Let's see here. See, we have JD Kirby in the mix. Welcome. How is it going? He does not hold back either. Yeah, he's an OG, that's for sure. See where I left off here. Maybe I believe he's at least adjacent or doesn't have an issue with it. Obviously, he's done tons of books with CG creators, so he doesn't disassociate or didn't in the past from CG, and was still obviously able to still be in the mainstream or connected to it. So bottom line is you all drink the Kool-Aid, and as long as you're Comicsgate, you will truly never really make it in comics. Bottom line. See, the problem is you view being in the mainstream as making it in comics, not the quality of folks' books. There are many of us that would rather have a killer book in the indie space that gets rave reviews and is a cult classic essentially versus being in the mainstream and just flying under the radar or getting in the mainstream and then getting canceled shortly thereafter. Um, I'd, I'd just rather make a phenomenal book than have bragging rights that I worked for a company. Yeah, this isn't about lore. So I don't care what he did in the past. I'm talking about this specific interaction. So that's funny. No, he did not try to cancel me. That's a weak mentality. So Wyatt Eastman is here. Welcome. Says speaking out against a business is not cancellation. If that's true, Ralph Nader speaking out about car companies making dangerous cars would mean he was a cancel big. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it. Yes, Violent Comics. I am a novelist. So my current campaign is two novels and a mini comic. So I dip my toes into the comic world essentially to get myself set up to be able to do a full comic issue, which I'm working on right now, about halfway through the script. So wanted to take my time, learn, and also just network, find artists to work with before I release a full comic issue. Because as many of us know, it's a huge commitment and it's very costly as well. So um, I started out as a novelist who then ended up being even more influenced by comics, fell in love with comics even more so, and decided I want to make a comic and try to make the best comic possible. So that's where I'm at right now. So Niobe says, so ask yourself this. Why does why do EVS minions always make content on his foes? Here you have BA talking about JDA, but last year it would have been fine. Again, this has absolutely nothing to do with EVS. It's all relevant to the topic, right? About cancellation. What does it mean? What is a cancel pig versus what I determined as a cancel maggot, for example? And JDA had said I had tried to cancel him. And so I wanted to show folks why he believed I was trying to cancel him and just show the irony and the funniness about the entire thing because it's nonsense. But how big is the anti CG audience? If you like the mainstream, why clash against an audience that isn't even close to your target? Right. It's the anti CG audience, in my opinion, the folks that actually actively hate it or want it to fail or whatever, is tiny compared to CG, and it's probably a very small percentage of the mainstream that's even aware of it or even gives a crap about it, especially since a lot of the artists right now are overseas, right? Or in other countries where they're not even aware of the political situation or they're not even aware of CG. So, no, I don't attack anyone. That's another word that's been bastardized as well. Criticizing someone, having an opinion, is not attacking. And no, it's not tribal. There are I want to say most, if not almost all of CG creators are willing to hang out with, to commission, to promote non-CG people. We don't care if you call yourself CG, right? We want to support folks that are not actively trying to cancel others. We want to support people that want to support others. There is no requirement to get on most of these shows or to interact that you have to be CG or agree with CG. And I respect people that don't necessarily want to be part of CG, but they'll at least associate with them. They'll hang out with them. They'll work with them. It's just, a lot of us are just simply adults. It's not about being tribal. It's just that, hey, some of us are like minded. We have similar beliefs, similar interests. So we hang out together, we stream together, we promote one another. That's pretty much it for most of us. Goes deeper for some that were here earlier on that dealt with cancellations. But for newer folks like myself, it's just finding like minded people to hang out with and grow your business together. Andrew Campbell says there's a few indie writers that are just painful to read, but have a YouTube audience because of the culture war cottage industry. Absolutely. Yep. Yep. They do apparently have a truce. But yeah, I think it's kind of one sided now, unfortunately. But yeah. Yeah. You're just trolling. Exactly. So what's the point? Is that going to make you a better writer? Is that going to grow your audience? In fact, I think it's going to make your audience shrink. But if you're having fun, by all means, go for it. I'm not going to say that you're canceling anyone. hmm And that's the thing. A lot of people that claim they're being canceled, which in most cases in reality they're just being critiqued, criticized, or made fun of, they're canceling themselves by just being dumbasses or saying things that they know will bring them negative attention. But in a lot of these cases, as I said, they're willing to even embarrass themselves because any publicity is publicity. Any attention is attention. And if it allows them to act like they're a victim, it activates their simps and it will get them sales, unfortunately. Long term, will it do much? We'll see, but that's not a way that I want to conduct my business, and I know it's the same for others. We would rather it be based off of merit, off of the intrigue of our books versus antics. I mean, that happens in any group or across any aisle in indie comics. Happens in with friendships in general. They fall apart. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's more so just human nature. It's not specific to CG. What's going on, amazing Yash? Thanks for being here. Welcome. I'm actually not sure if he did Punisher, but I know he's more known for Batman primarily. Guess we'll have to wait and see which one of us gets the most growth or makes it in the long run. It's a good test, right? Whether it's going to be an anti-CG person or someone that is CG and or is willing to just associate with CG and network. Yep, and see that's the thing. A lot of people are not aware of how the whole CG and Eric July, I guess, interaction came to be. But yeah, there were folks that did give him a lot of advice, helped him up. A ton of people propped him up and promoted him and all of that. So it wasn't just this black and white like, oh, one day CG just decided to critique Eric. Like, no, it went way back. Um, so there's a lot of lore to it, and then obviously it was the Dick Masterson interaction that brought a lot of stuff to light and opened up the floodgates essentially. But I think it was a good thing in the long run, honestly, and it gave people kind of the comfort or the confidence to just speak their mind in the end. Why would it make my audience shrink? That comes with the assumption that you think my backers are CG. CG never backs my book. It's not a loss, it's a net gain. How is purposely excluding thousands of potential backers a net gain? Uh, from the sounds of it, you're spinning your wheels. You have your existing backers. I think from what I can tell, you're not raising as much money as you have in the past. So maybe you're not retaining all of your backers. You should want CG backers. Again, it is literally thousands of backers. You should want backers regardless of who they associate with. So it's not helping your audience grow by excluding groups or whatever. I think naturally your audience is just shrinking potentially. Hmm. Yeah, then all comedians are essentially cancel pigs, right? By that logic. If making fun of something or someone is canceling them, then ooh, Mad TV, SNL, all of them, ooh, come on, that's nonsense. I mean, in a lot of cases, it's just jokes or just honest critique with some sarcasm, which that's more of my style. Like I'll give honest criticism, like my ISOM review. It was honest, it was detailed, and there were bits of sarcasm in there because you got to have some fun with it too. No, that is bastardizing the word attack. It is not attack. All right. So, Larry, I like to be humble when I can, but it took you several campaigns to raise at least $15,000 on your first campaign, right? I am almost beyond $14,000 on my first campaign. It took you several campaigns to get that in a time period when indie comics was like a gold mine. It was much easier to raise funds 5, 6 years ago as it is today, and the market was not as oversaturated. So I am way ahead of you, in all honesty, when it comes to crowdfunding. And again, time will tell on how my first comic performs compared to yours. If I outfund your highest funded campaign, then we have our answer. And if I double or triple it, well, then I'd be surprised if you show up in the chat again. Yeah, we're not children, and the thing is, you've said a lot of non-nice things in the chat, so hypocritical statement there. Exactly. Yes, there are thousands. Look at the backer count for EVS's campaigns. Look at Shane's campaigns. Look at a lot of historical campaigns that were or are CG. There's a lot of people getting 1,000+ backers. And back in the day, yeah, folks were getting a couple thousand. So yes, there are thousands of potential backers tied to CG. Absolutely. All right, let's get into a little bit of promotion. Um, Literally could probably stream for 6 hours with Niobe just nipping at the heels of the chat myself. Not sure why he doesn't want to just join, but I know he wants it on like his terms and on his channel. So it's about that control. All right. So to start, we have Cordrath Volume 2. So we highlighted this a couple weeks ago. Andy's a great guy in the space. Also is a pro, right? Came from the Big Two. He just cracked 60,000 on this campaign. Definitely one that should be considerably higher. But you're going to get a high quality book with this, especially based off of the first comic. This does close out tomorrow from what I've seen. So definitely check this out. Let's try to get this bumped up as much as we can. He's got a lot of great artists tied to this campaign, including Dan Lawless, Bud Root, and even Rennie. So definitely check this out if you're a fan of Conan and Sword Fantasy, all of that. This is definitely a book for you. And yeah, like I said, fantastic quality and art here. So please give this a go. And like I said, here soon, Katie will be streaming with Andy. So highly recommend folks go over there once this is over and support him and support her channel. Because, yeah, both Andy and Katie are great promoters in the space. And that's what we're all about here. Right. The next one is Gatecrasher by Billy Tucci. So he is $4,500 away from $100,000. Billy's another guy, fantastic individual in the space, great representation for indie comics. He also brings people on his channel, promotes others. I was fortunate enough to be on his channel early on. Very appreciative of that, but let's definitely try to get him to 100,000. And this is a very legacy property here, very popular. Even has a Rob Liefeld bundle, so a lot of awesome artists attached to this campaign. Even has a Lady Death from Brian Polito tied into it. But as always, really high quality art, fantastic colors, and a little bit of a brief description about She for anyone that is new to She. So in Gatecrasher, Anna Ishikawa allied with Ran, Billy Tucci's original concept for She, finds herself trapped within comic book time and must battle through a cartoonist history to find her way back to her daughter, Hotaru. Starting in 1928, She Gatecrasher takes her reader on an amazing adventure across comics, into incredible decades, trends, and genres. A funny book fantasy that sees Anna and Ran encountering war, westerns, horror apes, Nazis, space vixens, superheroes, romance, robots, dinosaurs, essentially everything, and even the seduction of the innocent. So yeah, definitely check this out and let's support Billy Tucci. Yeah, got that Rob Liefeld variant there, so that's awesome. That again, he has a mainstream artist linked to a CG project, right? So see, it's possible. It can happen. I think even Mark Polton has an upcoming campaign with a Rob Liefeld cover. So definitely possible to have connections with the mainstream still and BCG. All right, next we have Pencils Down by Belmont Press. Pull that up. All right. And Belmont's another guy. Has an awesome channel, brings creators on there to promote. So another great person in the space. We need more people like this. There's one thing that is unfortunate in the last couple of years. There's less and less folks doing promotion streams, doing networking, but there's still quite a few of us that are still doing what we can. And yeah, Justin's one of those folks. And this is just a fun, goofy book, for CG. So changing pace for a lot of folks. He's creeping up on 6,500, pushing towards his $7,000 stretch goal. Artist here is John Dillard. It was also written by Hojo, but the original idea and concept was by Belmont. We have a cover here by Eric Hudson, and there's also a new John Dillard cover there. That was really cool. You'll see some other characters and folks from CG sprinkled throughout this. There's also a Corey Barton cover. So yes, support Mr. Corey Barton in the chat here by picking this up. So a little bit of a description here in pencils down. A lazy comic book artist at the Big Two faces the shock of being fired, igniting a desire for revenge against those who betrayed him. Desperate and frustrated, he turns to an old Ouija board, hoping to summon a demon to carry out his vengeance. Instead, he inadvertently brings to life his number two pencil, a sarcastic and unpredictable entity with a mind of its own. Pencils Down blends humor, action, and satire, exploring number two's wild escapades and revealing that even the most ordinary tools can have extraordinary tales to tell. So yeah, fun book. I'm going to be picking this up here shortly as well. But yeah, let's see what we can do to get him to 7K. We even have a Sven Stoffels cover, which is pretty dang cool. And yeah, just a fun, goofy book for folks in CG and beyond to enjoy. So go and check this out. He has a 4-cover bundle for just $60. He's got digitals versions as well, and a line art edition. So gotta love that black and white. So please check this out. And yes, awesome to see this going well. Pat yourself on the back, Niobe. And some of us have been in some stores, but a lot of us haven't approached places like Antarctic and all of that because we're simply not that interested or wild about being in comic book stores. So, but there are folks, as you know, like Mike Marin, that are in comic book stores with their CG indie comics. So it's possible, and I'm sure that folks like Mike are outselling you as well. Dude, slow down. Put the coffee down. Type a little slower. Oh yeah, and for those that want to back on Kickstarter, you can do that as well. And yeah, it's now a project we love on Kickstarter. So you have options. You outsided me, Ike buy-in? Go and look at sales numbers I shown to EBS. Yeah, I don't know about that, but his Indiegogo campaigns, Kickstarter campaigns, Fund My Comic campaigns, most assuredly have outfunded you. So you have to take that into consideration as well. And last but not least, definitely got to promote my campaign, Vigilantes Creed. So this is going to be closing down 2 weeks from tomorrow. So it'll be your last 2 weeks for having a chance to pick up the premium versions of these novels and getting these mini comics as well. Let me pull this up. So yeah, very appreciative of everyone's support on this campaign. It has been fantastic. Initially I just wanted to get these stories out in front of folks, right? Test the waters, and then it grew into this passion to create a comic. And it's given me an awesome springboard to create that comic because every dollar that I've made in this campaign is going directly into the comic issue. It is funding the line artist. It's going to fund the initial good chunk of this comic. So I'm very blessed to be able to carry that over. Otherwise, this would have been very difficult, and it would have taken a very long time to get this off the ground. But that's the glory of crowdfunding. It gives us this opportunity to be able to create things and to get in front of folks. And so, yeah, every dollar that I make in the next 2 weeks, it's going to go right to the line artist to get more pages cranked out. My goal is to have as much of the comic done before I launch the campaign, so that similar to this, as soon as the 60 days are over, I can just start shipping to folks. I can stay in demand so that I can just ship on demand and just get it in front of as many folks as possible. And I know it's a big ask to get comic folks specifically to back a novel campaign, but it's went pretty well so far. And what I can tell you guys is the whole purpose of this is to be able to provide a more immersive reading experience. So for folks that read novels in the past, but they're missing the visualization, the pacing, the action-packed scenes, I wanted to provide that with this campaign to give you the visualization so that you know exactly what every character looks like with the reference material. And that's what the purpose of the mini comic is. You know exactly what every character looks like with beautiful Corey Barton art. You have depictions of a lot of the major scenes so that when you're reading the novel, you can just play it out like a film. And a lot of people have said it reads like it's like it's a film experience. It's very immersive, and you can really focus on the context of the story and the action. And it's not just an action-packed story. There's a lot of emotion to it. There's a lot of mystery, and there's a lot of lore, right? Because there's supernatural creatures involved. There's celestial beings involved. And so, one thing I can promise is this is going to be a novel unlike others. And I do think it could provide a very detailed story for folks that are looking for some content in between comics that they're receiving from all these awesome indie creators. And I want to be one of those guys like Mike Barron, right, that does provide both. You can pick up novels from me, you can pick up comics, and get the best of both worlds. And so for anyone that's new, the story is it's a Lovecraftian tale about a gargoyle and a team of vigilantes fighting terror in Detroit. Terror, which is headed by a man named Incubus, who has unearthed a Nazi-era mind control serum in hopes of building a army of super soldiers to take over Detroit and beyond. So this is for folks that like a really dark, gritty story, like Sin City, like Dark Knight Returns, like Watchmen, but also gives you that escapism of, again, gargoyle lore, biblical lore, and a very deep backstory that's tied to the grimoire that this gargoyle is connected to. And it's just about an average, ordinary man who is down on his luck, that is looking for purpose in his life. A man that's always wanted to help others. And because of one massive selfless act, he is granted a celestial gift that allows him to turn into a gargoyle every night so that he can spend his days doing research and investigating, and then his nights beating down criminal uh, criminals, and trying to clean up the streets of Detroit and ultimately save the citizens of Detroit. So I just ask that folks give it a shot. There's a very high chance that these specific premium versions will not be available in the future, especially with how much more expensive they are to print now compared to when I started this campaign. And yeah, a lot of awesome CG and indie talent tied to this. As mentioned, here's some Corey Barton art here, and this is exactly what the interior pages will look like. Right, it introduces you to the characters, it gives you statistics about them, key information. So again, you can always go back to it as reference material. And yeah, it's about a true hero, a man that is willing to sacrifice himself for the citizens of Detroit, but also has a unique kind of kill rule where he is unable to kill anything with a soul. And if you read the story, you're going to see there's much more to that aspect that makes it very unique to other vigilante tales. But again, a lot of gritty, brutal vigilante actions in this for folks to enjoy. We also have artwork by the great Joe Ball here. You can get this in the 2-in-1 duology version of the novel, as well as the black and white mini comic. And you also have some awesome art by Elliot Rodriguez. Everybody that gets a physical package will get one of his prints, but the mini comic also has some art pages by him as well. And we had a beautiful wraparound cover by Skunk Artworks. There's also some Joe Ball trading cards as well that folks can pick up. And there is the original art still by Skunk Artworks, which it's a huge one. It's like 18 by 26 or something. It'll come framed. And we have a 3-pack of Elliot Rodriguez art as well for $250. So some great original art. And yeah, there's a sample of the prose here. So 5 pages, so you guys can get a feel for my writing. And this is the scene where he first turns into a gargoyle. So very gnarly scene to give you guys a glimpse into the story. There's also some character breakdowns here as well. And yeah, there's the team there. And yeah, there's also puzzles, lunch boxes, posters. There are aluminum signs, and every physical backer gets 2 free oversized laminated bookmarks, 4 free laminated, soft touch laminated, mind you, prints, and a free Corey Barton trading card that comes encased as well. So you get a lot of freebies with these physical packs. You can get any item individually, but the bundles are where you get the most bang for your buck. For example, the most popular one is the Let's Get Physical package, where you get both novels, all 3 mini comics, and all those freebies for just $50. So yeah, please check it out. Would like to get as much funding as possible in the next 2 weeks so that I can put that directly into the comic issue, continue getting that off the ground, and yeah, hopefully that'll help get you guys a sign up page sooner than later and get you some insight into the artwork. So very excited to share that with you folks, and thank you everybody who has backed this and everyone that has promoted this and helped me. It's greatly appreciated. So thank you everybody. And yeah, this will come down 2 weeks from tomorrow. So I think it's the 26th. This will close down. So hopefully we'll get on some streams. I know I'm going to do a stream with Katie before this closes down. And yeah, any opportunity to get on streams, I will definitely jump at. Hoping to get on JJ Trujillo's channel as well and get this out in front of anyone that has not been exposed to it yet. And thank you guys in the chat for sharing the link. So let's try to catch up a little bit with the chat. I want to get us over to Katie's channel here, but yeah, a lot of activity here. A lot of shit talking, of course. By the logic of some, I'm still being canceled. It's been 2 hours of me being canceled. Oh, man. Yeah, I've gotten some shit for creating what I call a mini comic and for pitching. I don't know how it's disingenuous to pitch novels to comic readers when I explicitly am honest and say they're novels and I want you to read novels, but you get some comic book, right? That's the whole point. There's visualization. That's what's missing in most novels, even on covers. So there's nothing disingenuous about this campaign, and I haven't had any negative feedback about the campaign from backers. So yeah. So why is it still live if the 60 days ended back in September of 2024? Well, because I want to get as many readers as possible. I'm using it as a storefront. And I think a lot of people, they miss out on in demand. And I know you use Kickstarter, right? Which until now didn't have that option, unfortunately. But you know, it's about getting out in front of as many people as possible. I ended the campaign at $5,000 between Indiegogo and Fund My Comic. I'm now almost at $14,000. I would have been doing a disservice to myself, to my future comic issue, and to a majority of my backers if I would have just closed the campaign after 60 days. My goal was to leave it open until my next campaign launched. Why? Because I want to sell books. I want people to experience my story. And because I have stock of everything, I plan this in a specific way to make sure that I continue to ship on demand. And it's worked out great. And again, because I did this, I was able to raise a lot of extra money. So, very glad I went with this direction. Let's see here. So I think, oh yeah. Um, so I'm sure you've been getting the updates from his Indiegogo campaign. This is the most anticipated book for me is Death, 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 as well as Reaper Destroyer, which I know I'll be getting mine here really shortly. So he's got all the line art and inking done. He's buttoning up the lettering and the coloring. And that's the thing. This is a monster book. It's like 300 pages. It's a legit graphic novel. It's going to be probably the biggest indie book anybody will get when it comes to, comics. So I can understand, and I think a lot of us can understand why it would take several years, especially when you're doing the coloring and the lettering yourself as well. It's a huge undertaking, but I can tell you he is busting his ass. I don't know if there's anybody else that works harder than Joe in this space. So it will be well worth the wait. I can guarantee you that. So very, very excited for that. So it's coming. Welcome, Galaxy Stranger. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Oh man, Niobe's canceling you too? Oh no. I'm stealing and stalling too long. Well, I can't really keep up with who you're referring to, but I'm definitely not doing that because I've been shipping this book since October or November of 2023. Yeah, because this ended in the 60 days ended in 2023. So I'm not stalling or anything. People are, as soon as they order, it ships out within a couple days. I'm literally shipping on demand. So there's no stalling or anything like that. Basically, my campaign was a pre-order. So, but I want to support crowdfunding. So that's why I'm crowdfunding. So I could just launch a new campaign, start raising funds. I could. But I've decided to wait until a good chunk of the book is done before I launch the campaign. I also treat my sign up phase like it's a campaign. So I want to market the sign up page very hard for at least 6 months to get that sign up list. It worked very well the first time. That's the same strategy I want to take this time. So it's not about trying to milk a dead cow, especially since I'm still raising funds. I've raised a couple $100 in the past week. It's you're just going to get backers and readers over time. So it's just called being patient, and I want to raise more funds for the next campaign. In demand should always be allowed. It is a glorious thing. And in my case, again, the books have already went out. It's a storefront, essentially. That I believe. Reaper Destroyer is beautiful. Yeah, that looks fantastic. I'm excited for that. Yep. All right. Well, I'm going to let you guys go. I appreciate everyone being here. Please go over to Katie Did's channel. I'm going to hop there myself. If I knew how to do whatever that's called, where you push everyone over to it, I would. I'll learn that in the future. But go support her channel and support Andy Smith. And yeah, appreciate everyone being here for your time. Have a good night and God bless.